What I'm going to do first is just give a general overview. Adrian, oh, we are recording. Okay, good. About the CCP program. So I thought it would be easiest to maybe share some of the slides from a presentation that was developed that lives on the Sycamore website. So I put together a Google slide presentation, and then I made a video about it. And I'm not going to go through all the slides. The idea behind this meeting was that hopefully people have engaged with some of that information that was on the website. And then I asked people to ask questions, and everybody asked really good questions. So I'm just going to be really brief, but in case you didn't have time to look at that, I just want everybody to have a little general information. So Emily, if you could share that first slide, the basics of CCP. So essentially, I mean, I can start if it's loading up. Excellent. So CCP stands for College Credit Plus. It is a program in the state of Ohio where high schools and colleges are actually mandated to work together to provide experiences where high school students can earn college credit. High school and college credit at the same time, most of the time. So here are some of the rules around it. So students in grades 7 through 12 are allowed to participate in CCP. They earn college and high school credit for their CCP courses. Funding for tuition and books is paid for by Sycamore. With regard to the grades in CCP classes, so these classes come with some grade benefits for students. A 1-semester CCP class counts as a full credit high school class, so they get more credit for their CCP classes. And then also in any content area where we offer an AP class, which is all of the academic ones plus art plus computer science, students get a weighted grade like an AP grade for it. So at Sycamore, our accelerated classes come with a 0.5 weight, AP classes with a 1.0 weight, and these CCP classes earn the 1.0 weight. CCP grades will appear on a Sycamore High School transcript and a college transcript. So one of the points we make with students as they enter this program is that you are starting, you're getting high school credit for this, but you are also starting your college transcript. So really important to take these classes seriously. Students can take classes at colleges and universities across Ohio, but most of our students attend UC Maine and UC Blue Ash, Cincinnati State, Sinclair, Miami, both the Oxford and regionals. But you might be surprised to know that we also have students right now at University of Toledo and at Bowling Green, and I may even be forgetting about some others. So they've been able to engage with those classes because they're online. And then again, this final bullet point is just, this is a program, it's a great opportunity, but there is some responsibility and maturity that has to be in place with the student, because once they're taking these CCP classes, they're actually considered college students. So that affects how communication is and what the responsibilities are. And so they have to kind of be motivated and willing to take on responsibility for some forms and other things like that. Okay, if we could go to, I think it's slide 5. So this is a question that we get a lot. How does credit convert? So a 3-credit college class, which is what most semester classes are at the college level, converts to 1 Sycamore credit. If a student takes a class at a college campus that's less than 3 credits, so 2 or 1, they'll get a portion of a credit. There is a table. I'm not going to be clicking on it right now, but there's information on the college websites about a couple of things. There's something called level 1 and level 2 classes. So at the beginning, there are only certain classes that students can engage with. And once they get through level 1 classes, they can go on to level 2. And actually, why don't you click on that, Emily? Thank you. Trying to remember, or does it, if it doesn't work, that's no big deal. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this exists that talks about what the high school requirement is and what the college credit plus class would be. So there's a lot of resources on the website. And yeah, we're going to summarize some of the basics here, but just know that this document exists that helps you choose the classes. Okay, can we go to slide number 9? Oh, and also at the bottom of that, so you retain your counselor at the high school, but you will also have an advisor at the college you attend if you are a CCP student. So a lot of the questions are just like, how do I get started? Okay, it sounds great. What do I need to do? And so it's actually not a complicated process, but there are some steps. So the first step is the letter of intent. This is a letter that the student and the parents sign that we keep on file at Sycamore. And it assures us that conversations have taken place so that there's an understanding about the benefits and the responsibilities of taking a CCP class. We keep those on file. On our website right now, there is a link to a Google form, so you can complete the letter of intent by filling out a Google form, and the parent and student can sign it. There's also a PDF on our website that you can print out, and there are hard copies in the counseling office. But that's kind of the beginning of the process, and there's no obligation and no problem. If you were to fill out a letter of intent and not participate in CCP, that's fine. But we really can't move forward with engaging with the college partners, sending documents and things like that until we have that letter of intent. So that's the first thing that you want to do, fill it out and get it back to the counseling office at Sycamore. Right now, the deadline is May 1st for letters of intent. That's a little bit later deadline than has been true in the past, and that's because of COVID. Some things have been more flexible around CCP because of COVID. Next, okay, so now you've got your letter of intent. What do I do next? And next you go out to the college or colleges where you would like to apply, where you think you might want to attend. And they have online applications for CCP. I was going to make one comment about the letter of intent being due May 1st. If you are a student that wants to take classes in the summer, please do not wait until May 1st to start this process. Our letter of intent deadline is May 1st. I'm actually not sure. The college partners can maybe speak to what their deadlines are, but they may have different deadlines than us. And because summer classes start in May, you really want to be starting on this process right now. So next you do the online application to the colleges and universities, or one or more. You are allowed to apply 2 more. And when you're in that application, they will tell you what they need from the high school. So a college might need a transcript, or they might have an authorization form, or they might ask the student to put in the school counselor's email address because they're going to send something to us electronically that we need to verify. So it's the student's responsibility to know what that institution is requiring. And then there's another form that you can see in number 4, where you can let the counseling office know what you need us to send and where. And again, it also exists as a hard copy or as a Google form. This is really important. I highlight this at the bottom. Like so many things COVID, there has been some flexibility with regard to testing. But if you are a junior and you're taking the ACT next Tuesday, go ahead and add the college partner where you might want to take a CCP class to your automatic score reports, and that will be all taken care of, those schools. And you may have others where you want to apply, but for right now, adding those CCP colleges means that they will have access to your scores quickly after test day. And then my final thing is there is extensive College Credit Plus information on the Sycamore website. So if you go to the Sycamore High School part of the district website and go to courses and scheduling, on the left-hand side, CCP is one of the links, and that's where a little bit longer presentation and all the forms exist. Okay, that's kind of my quick general overview. And so now the next part that I kind of want to go into is
May I ask a question before you move on?
Yes.
Thank you. So for if you could go back to the slides, there was the form that we had to fill out, request for documents. Do we fill out the web form and also send in a hard copy, or is it just one or the other?
One or the other.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I guess that worked pretty well. I didn't know. Do we want to pause to answer any questions, Adrian, or?
So far, I've been answering them in the chat. Someone did ask, can we do CCP over this summer?
Yes.
Do you need an ACT or SAT as a freshman?
So that's going to be addressed in a minute. The college partners, so that's definitely something that they're going to talk about.
I think we're good now. And just as a reminder, please continue to add questions.
I think you might, can people hear Adrian?
Sorry about that. Yes, please just continue to keep typing questions in the chat.
Okay, awesome. And if anyone else has a question before we move on, lots more information is coming too. Okay, so how I organized, what made sense to me, hopefully it works well. I doled out all the questions that people asked ahead of time, and I kind of gave them to the people that I thought would answer them the best. And then the flexible college partners, I just assigned them all 3 or 4. So I'd like to start with Adrian. I gave you 1 question because you're doing a lot of the other work.
Yeah, so one question we get a lot is just about the schedule of CCP because it's not traditional, but just, and especially even this year, but do not let CCP be a hinder in a sense of we are flexible. We have students that like sometimes they're half at Sycamore High School, sometimes they're off campus, sometimes they're doing virtual off campus, especially more virtual this year. They may need a bell where they just have a study hall and we find a location for them. So we do work with the students because if there are, a certain schedule that a college is going to have, and obviously we do try to meet both needs. But if there is like certain times or down times that we can find study halls and or locations for students in those in between times.
Okay, Krishna, I know that on the spreadsheet I had you last, but I decided earlier today that I would like you to go first. Is that okay?
Yep.
I just met Krishna last week, and I am so impressed. And so I thought I could do that, and you would be able to roll with it. So how I'd like this to go is if you could read the question that you're going to answer, and then answer it.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, so the question here is how will students receive like textbooks and like course-related material for CCP classes? As she mentioned before, it's paid for by the school. So what happens is when you get a UCID. Well, I should probably introduce myself first. My bad. Hi, I'm Krishna Suresh. I'm a senior. I've been taking classes mostly at UC Blue Ash, UC Main Campus, and then a couple at Sinclair. And I've been doing since 7th grade, and it was like a little bit different then, but it's like mostly the same pretty much. I think the only thing that's changed with the ACT requirement, but or sorry, not requirement anymore, but
and can I
a little bit.
You attended some on campus when you were younger.
Oh,
but lately you've been doing them online, right?
Yeah. So I've done in person and then online synchronous and then asynchronous. So I'll probably explain more of that later. But yeah, so I mean, in regards to the books specifically, normally we would just go in person and pick it up at a UC bookstore. For example, at Blue Ash, they had pretty much all the books there, so you just like go in, bring in your UC ID card, and bring the course that you're planning on attending, or you find the book ahead of time and just bring that, and they're very helpful there, so they can just get you the book that you need, and it's paid for through credit that's like in the card itself for each class. And I think with online virtual this year, we were able to just ship them directly to like your home address. So that's what we're doing this last year. But normally I would just go in person and pick it up. Yeah, I'm not really too sure there's anything more to add to that. But it's pretty clear, the textbooks and stuff, like where it is and which textbooks you should be getting and stuff. And in fact, like most of the time, like textbooks are online. Professors just kind of don't really care with having a physical copy. So it's a little bit less important, but you still do it before every class. Next question here is, will colleges communicate directly to students regarding their CCP courses? And if so, how do they do so? So I think initially it was mainly just between the professor and student via email or in person when you're talking to them. But I think the academic advisor has been really, really helpful, especially in the past couple of years. And especially now with virtual everything. But like, just, having at least a person that you can, tell them your plan for doing things, and then they can, provide you feedback and update you with additional information. And let you know if you have a good idea or a bad idea, things like that. Also, another key part with that is with prerequisites. They know far more information regarding that compared to like me, who just reads some online forum poorly. So that's a very important source of communication. And then I think that once the courses start and like once you're like in the system for whichever college, it's easiest to communicate directly to the professor, and then they can either provide like an additional person if it's something like super specific. Like I know one time it was like with some prerequisite class that didn't properly match up. They always just kind of pointed me in the right direction. It was pretty helpful. And yeah, I think that's like the main way that I would really communicate. And it was mainly just through email. Most people I've noticed are very responsive with their email. It's not really too difficult to keep in contact with people and stay updated.
You really have to keep an eye on that college email, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just set up like a forwarding thing to like my normal email.
Oh.
I just have it all in one place. I would highly recommend doing that. But like, for example, if you go to UC, then like, I don't know if like they have a power outage in one random dorm room in UC main campus, you'll get a notification, which is kind of annoying, but at least you're updated.
Yeah. And do they communicate with your parents at all, or is it all through you?
Oh yeah, sorry, that's a very important thing. I would say it's a very, very good experience, but also it's very important to have the independence with College Procurement Plus in general, from the student perspective. Like, it's a good opportunity to just like, learn and like see how college is. But it's also, very important to, not have too much of your parent involvement with communicating with professors, keeping up with coursework. It's really more of a self, motivated thing to try and do. Yeah. So like, I wouldn't really recommend having your parents with their email, with like your college email, emailing professors, things like that. It should really just be between the student professor, unless it's like super specific. And in that case, the advisor is probably a better person to deal with something like that. I'm not entirely the best person to say stuff with this, but yeah, it mainly just,
It's mostly through you,
Yeah.
which is what what I feel like I've heard.
Mhm.
Awesome.
So the next question I see is, what courses can I take as a freshman? And yeah, so with regards to like what courses you can take, the way that I kind of approached it was just what courses do I seem most interested in, and like what courses do I fulfill the prerequisites for to be able to take them. So on for UC, for one example, they have a course catalog or course search system that you can, I don't know, like a month or two before each semester they release that, so you can kind of go in there and then search whichever courses that you're interested in per college or per online or synchronous, asynchronous, all this stuff you can just kind of narrow down and then look at the prerequisite list on there. And for example, if it says, oh, okay, I need to have taken like have a different math course, like to take calculus 2, you need to take calculus 1, you know, things like that. A lot of those prerequisites can also be substituted with AP credit or be like semi bypassed if you talk to your advisor. That's something that you should really contact your advisor and figure out, like, you know, can I take this class? Is it a good idea? And it's a good idea to try to make a list of a bunch of classes, because course spots is also another thing to kind of keep in mind. Courses can definitely fill up. That's definitely happened to me before. So yeah, so, you know, try to make a list of viable classes, figure out the prerequisites, and contact your advisor. Those are probably the 3 main things I would say. How would transportation work? So for me, I live right next to UC Blue Ash. So like I was in 7th grade and I couldn't really like, you know, drive that much. So I would just walk to UC Blue Ash and do in-person classes. So it was very easy for me to do that, but obviously that's not a very, you know, generally advisable thing if you're like 20 miles from a college. Not a good idea to walk there. But I would say virtual classes are really going to be the best option if transportation is going to be an issue. I have no idea about the buses.
There are not. That's
okay.
not part of the program.
Okay. That's what I thought. And yeah, so like for example, with UC main campus, I was thinking of taking some in-person classes there, but it really was impossible to figure out how to drive 20 minutes there during rush hour and then back and then have time to do everything else. So it just made more sense to do virtual stuff for colleges that were further away. But obviously, if the course isn't available and you really want to take it and it's a possibility to do transportation, I would very much recommend in-person classes if you can. I really found the experience enjoyable. And yeah, I'll probably talk more about that soon later, but yeah. How do you determine which CCP courses correspond to certain AP classes? So pretty much every single course is gonna have a syllabus. Sorry, not even pretty much. Like every course is gonna have a syllabus, and you should definitely email the professor and figure out what information that they cover during the class. And then a good comparison to the AP course is just to look at College Board's, you know, materials and stuff. And if you're not comfortable with comparing that, you don't understand it that much, it's best to just talk to the AP teacher. So like, you know, whoever's teaching the AP class, just, you know, show them the syllabus, ask them like, you know, how does this compare to the class? And in general, my own take on stuff is I like the AP classes a little bit better for material that I enjoy, like, you know, going really, really deep into. Sometimes the college classes go so fast paced that it's a little bit difficult to keep up at the same level of depth as an AP classes, because, you know, it's like, you know, 20 hours compared to a whole year. Or not, sorry, not 20 hours, like, you know, one semester compared to a whole year of material. So it really just kind of depends. There's not really like a clear-cut answer to whether I should take an AP class or College Credit Plus class, but
no, I think that's good. I wanted people to hear how you decide what you're going to take and what that analysis is. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Really good to hear your perspective.
but
I think I'd like to go to the college partners now. I have Christine first, and I think if you have a copy of what I sent you, there were just like some general questions to introduce yourself, talk about your institution, and then your questions that I assigned you.
Sure, absolutely. I'm Christine Tapp-Miller from Cincinnati State. I work in the Office of Admissions, who helps process and admit students for not only standard students, but also CCP students as well. So if you have any questions, if you need to know what's next in your process, you can reach out to the Office of Admissions. We will help you with that. Cincinnati State has a wide variety of students that are participating in the CCP program from all over the greater Cincinnati area, and they are doing very well. And we love our CCP students. We like to talk about CCP to degrees, so making sure that you are meeting with an academic advisor. I'm excited that he talked about academic advising so much because they are such an important role for you. Because not only can you take CCP courses with us, but we'd love to keep you and have you earn a degree with us as well. So Cincinnati State, for us, I'm going to go ahead and answer some of these questions that we have. But actually, before I say that, I think Jamie nailed something on the head in the chat when she said FERPA. And I just wanted to jump in and take the opportunity, because I'm going to be blunt. Whether a student is a minor or not, they still have privacy rights to their information. So in other words, a student who's participating in CCP, even as a minor, that teacher, that advisor does not have the responsibility to speak with a parent unless you sign a FERPA waiver. So if that's something that you really want and your child approves, that's something that you can look into. But bottom line, we have a great respect for your students' information. And so that's what FERPA is for that. So I'm actually going to go to the bottom of some of these questions, because really the questions that I got were around kind of what do you need to do to kind of get in to be able to take CCP courses, and what do you got to do to stay in is kind of the theme that they surrounded. And I know that some of the college partners that are here also do more of the academic advising than I do, so they can piggyback, they can make sure to go further into anything that I mentioned.
Everybody can jump in.
Oh yeah, go for it. Oh yeah. So, is there anything specific or any specific standards they must meet prior to enrollment? Well, a student needs to be eligible in two different ways. They need to meet eligibility based off of state requirements. That's going to be a minimum, so they have to be approved to be able to participate. And then a student, just because they're eligible to participate doesn't mean that they're going to qualify for some of the classes they think they might end up taking. Okay, so keep that in mind. You also have to meet course prerequisites as well. Okay, so in the past, really what we've done is we've looked at grades, GPA, and we've had our standardized test scores from students as part of standards that you have to meet. Because of COVID, the state said it's okay, universities, colleges, you don't have to necessarily have a standardized test score. You can just use GPA at the moment. However, not every college and university has chosen to take that path. So make sure you are following the admissions process of the college that you want to attend. Okay, Cincinnati State, what we do is we do follow the minimum from the state of Ohio. So we will take your college authorization form, your transcripts, and we will be able to admit you after, provided that you put in a CCP application. And then our students particularly if you are taking online courses with us or you're taking on-campus courses with us, you will need to go through CCP student orientation, and you will need to meet with an academic advisor. That academic advising session will let you know what classes you are qualified to be able to take, okay? This also relates to the next question is, what about testing? As a community college, this is what I get the most when it comes to CCP, because we do offer what we call a placement test. Okay, it's called AccuPlacer. So we do have students that are in junior high, freshman, sophomore, that haven't had an opportunity to take an ACT or SAT. So we are offering that test virtually. So you can sign up to be able to take it if you want to make sure that you're going to be meeting the requirements to take the classes that you want. Now, please keep in mind that other colleges and universities may still require this specifically an ACT or SAT, so check in with them. So please, yeah, please make sure that you check in with them on that. We do not charge for students taking the placement test. Keep in mind that you will need to have access to a computer and also access to a webcam, because you will be proctored through your webcam for that. Final thing for placement testing, we believe that your test scores are your own as students. So if you do request that we send test scores to other schools, we will do that for you, or we will release them. It's up to the college or university that they are being sent to whether or not they will be accepted, because there are a variety of different AccuPlacer versions that you can take. Oh, and we still do take ACT, SAT, by the way. So if you do have the scores, you can send them to us through ACT or SAT. All right, is the school able to deny a student enrollment in CCP courses? And what's the GPA requirement to be able to stay enrolled? So, one of the first things I'm going to say is you need to make sure that you are aware of CCP probation and dismissal rules. And that's really where this comes into play, I believe, from what I've been told. And so it's generally earning lower than a 2.0 GPA in their CCP courses, or you withdraw or receive no credit for 2 or more courses in the same term. That will get you placed on probation. If things don't improve, I'll just say in general, if things don't improve, then you could be dismissed, and there are rules regarding that as well. Seeing your school counselors would be a good person to talk about CCP probation or dismissal, and then making sure you're checking in with your college partner advisors for that. On a related note, is a school able to deny student enrollment in CCP courses? There are several instances. There's a school district denying a student being able to enroll in CCP courses, and then there is the college or university denying a student being able to enroll. Okay, so from the college side, colleges have always maintained that they can put in place any admissions requirements for CCP students. That's number one. Number two, that they can dismiss the student at any time for what they feel are legitimate reasons. But the common examples: number one, you didn't meet requirements to be able to participate in the program as stated by the Ohio Department of Education. You did not meet admissions requirements. You didn't meet course eligibility or prereqs. So let's say you do end up meeting with that academic advisor and they say you met some of the baseline requirements, but you're not going to be able to take these courses. because you don't meet eligibility for those courses. You're on academic suspension or probation. You need to follow the rules that are associated with both of those circumstances. And a final one that I thought of, let's say you are taking more CCP courses than you've technically been allotted. There's a certain amount of allotment that you're allowed to do. Some students end up taking more. You very well could, and most likely will end up paying for those out of pocket. So a school, a college or university will deny a student registration abilities if they have an unpaid balance is the other one.
I can go into that in a bit. That's what Courtney helped me with. Yeah.
Sure. Also missing deadlines.
No, there is you combine your high school classes and your college credit plus classes, and it can only add up to so many in a year.
Yep.
So essentially you so each high school class kind of counts as 3 credits, and the maximum credits is 30 in a year. So if you have 7 bells like we have at Sycamore, so if you were to take a class all 7 bells, that would kind of count as 21 credits. You would be able to take 3 CCP classes, and then after that, you would need to pay if you took more. All right, thank you so much, Megan. Awesome. Christine, sorry, it's Megan's turn now from Miami. You're on.
Great, thank you. Yeah, my name is Megan Spanel, and I'm the Director of Admission at Miami's regional campuses. So the information that I'm going to provide is specific to Miami's regional locations in Hamilton, Middletown, Westchester, and our eCampus or our online courses. So I want to make sure that that is pretty clear. Our Oxford campus absolutely has a CCP application process, but we at the regionals, just in turn, because of proximity mostly, have the vast majority of CCP students at Miami University. But I will make sure that my contact info as well as the Oxford info is in the chat when I'm done. So with all of that, at Miami University regionals, we do have very strict deadlines for admission. So our application is available right now. If you are interested in summer, you have to complete it by April 1st. If you are interested in fall, it's May 1st. And then if you're waiting until spring, it's not until November. So I know it was discussed about the earlier summer terms. So those are really important dates to sort of keep in mind for us at the regional campuses. We at Miami Regionals are a little bit different than my colleague from Cincinnati State discussed in terms of what we determine for college readiness and what we need. So we are following state minimum standards to determine college readiness. So within COVID right now, we are just admitting based on a 3.0 high school GPA or middle school grade report. So if you submit that, you will be admitted to CCP at the regional campuses, even if you don't have an ACT or SAT test. Now, outside of COVID, we will require some sort of standardized test option for students. So you would, if it returns to outside of COVID or whatever, you would apply for admission, and then you will take an AccuPlacer test that we would schedule for you if you don't have the ACT or the SAT test to submit. So I hope that sort of makes sense. There are questions about the transferability among CCP courses to colleges and things like that. Colleagues from other schools, please chime in. But I think the whole point of CCP in the state of Ohio is to support transferability among state schools in Ohio. So Miami classes, it's Miami University credit, whether you take it at Oxford or you take it at Miami Hamilton or online. We have a lot of online options. Cincinnati State takes our credits, as does UC, and as do the other state schools. I will encourage you, however, to make sure you're communicating with the college that you are interested in attending after high school to make sure you know exactly how those credits transfer. But the majority of CCP students enroll in courses that are sort of part of the general education curriculum at any institution. So Ohio does a really good job at that. If you're interested in an out-of-state school, Usually credits transfer, but I would just make sure you contact those institutions so you know exactly how they transfer and what that looks like. So some of my questions were about accommodations and educational plans and how that transfers from the high school side to the college side. And this has been discussed a lot, but the biggest thing that I liked families to know is that the student has to advocate for themselves. So the student is really in charge of what all of this means. So we as the college absolutely have partners in our disability services office, or at least that's what it's called at Miami. I'm sure similar terms at other institutions, where we work with students to get paperwork and make appropriate college level accommodations for the student. Will that look exactly like their plan in high school? It might not, but we work with students to make sure everything that can be done at the college level, whether you are a traditional degree seeking student or a CCP student, is available to you. But the student must reach out to the office themselves. The parent cannot reach out to the office. So that's really important to remember. The next question that I'm addressing is, how have CCP requirements changed due to COVID? And so I explained that for Miami. So the biggest one that I'm aware of is this testing requirement, if it's required versus if it's not. So for Miami regionals, we will admit without that testing because of COVID, but other schools might have different requirements for that. And then, I talked about this too, about the transfer guarantee from school to school. So it really, again, just depends on the school that you're interested in pursuing after high school graduation. I would strongly encourage you to reach out to all of those schools just so you know exactly how they're going to transfer. But generally, yes, they do transfer. And then my last question I got was, when applying for college during your senior year, is the student who took CCP courses technically a first-year student or a transfer student? If you attend college as a CCP student and you graduate high school, you are a first-time college student on an application for any school. So you would be a first-time student, not a transfer student, because all of those courses you earned were while you were in high school. I hope that was clear. Yeah, I'll put my info in the chat. So if you have questions, let me know. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Awesome information. Next up is Jamie Solomon from University of Cincinnati.
Awesome. All right, guys, thank you. I know this is a power hour, so I'm going to try to kind of get some of the highlights with UC, answer the questions that were asked of me this week. I will make sure to put my information in the chat. First and foremost, if we don't get to answer a question that you may have regarding UC specifically, I will put this in the chat also, but our website is the main resource, as my colleagues are going to be the same. We are at uc.edu/CCP, or you can email us at ccp@uc.edu. So for any follow-up questions that you may have or specific ones, you'll hit my entire team on that email. We're pretty good on our email responses. Some highlights for UC. Our deadline for summer, if you are interested in summer coursework, at all, you're entertaining it, or you definitely know you're going to want to do that, April 15th is our deadline. So that's important to note. If you want to start your time with CCP with UC in the fall, June 1st is our deadline. And when I say deadline, that means all of our application materials must be in by those dates. So application requirements are as follows: an online application at uc.edu/CCP, official high school transcript, and that can be requested through your counseling staff at Sycamore, and then official testing. This is new because of the COVID response, etc. And all this information is also listed on our website. UC is offering something called our math placement test and English assessment. You have to do both to make you qualifiable for admission consideration for CCP at UC. You also can send in your ACT or SAT official scores if you so choose to, instead of doing a math placement English assessment. So it's an or situation: MPT and English assessment, or official ACT or SAT scores. ACT has to come from ACT.org, and SATs have to come from College Board. And I'm pretty confident that is also for my colleagues also, if you choose to do that. So time this accordingly by our deadlines to make sure all the materials are in. You'll get communication regarding this. This is on our website, but you will also get communication regarding this after you do our online application. Something that is not necessarily new, but we're going more into this year. We just started it last year. We are a cohesive CCP unit at UC now. We are not separated by the regional campuses, Claremont and Blue Ash, and then Uptown. So there is not 3 separate applications. It is 1 application for the CCP program. Now, it does ask you to pick a campus. That's just for our data to kind of see what campus you may or may not be participating or looking to participate most of your coursework at. And just like with Krishna, he was near Blue Ash. So that worked out very well for his schedule. And I'm so sorry, my dog wants to participate right now. But it doesn't mean you're confined to that campus. So you're going to be able to take coursework asynchronously or synchronously in the virtual world or on campus if available at any of the campuses you so choose. You can work that out with your academic advisor. So with some important notes about the process, and we've been hitting this home a little bit more this year about expectations post-application, because I think it's really important to let the families and students know what's expected of a student if they are admitted to our program. So it kind of looks like this. Starts with an application, then admission, potential admission, orientation is mandatory for you to attend, and then virtual, mandatory academic advising appointments. So that's important to note that that's kind of what you would look forward to with UC. If you are a current CCP student with UC and you've already participated with us this past year, you do not need to reapply. You just need to check your UC email account, and we will have sent to you in an email format your admission for this upcoming year. However, you still have to do your letter of intent with your high school. So that's really important. That's every year. But with UC, if you want to keep going with us, you do not need to reapply. Questions that get brought up about this summer with UC is, are we going to have all online classes, or are there going to be in-person classes? I will say for summer, we are going to be reflective of doing mainly virtual classes. This is not really different than what we've done in the past, but we will have some on-campus courses that are open, but they're going to be small. And it's going to be really important for you to make sure you go through the process and talk with your academic advisor, because just like any semester, we can never guarantee seat availability, course availability that's going to fit your unique schedule. So please make sure you get with your school counselors and hash out your high school schedule as if you would not be participating with CCP. It is much easier to readjust a schedule as if you can put your CCP courses in and remove an AP course than it is to assume you'll get into a CCP course and then try to find you an AP course or another course that's going to fit your schedule with your curricular activities, jobs, and the way everything is just kind of topsy-turvy right now. So I hope that makes sense. Some random things just to throw out to you. Your UC email account or your college account. If you're pushing it to your personal account, please adjust your security settings and make sure that you check your spam and your junk mail, because your UC or your Miami or Cincinnati State account will most likely go into junk mail. So make sure you adjust that. So if you're combining them, that's perfectly fine. It's efficient and I totally get it, but just make sure you check your junk and spam or your security settings, or you're going to miss a whole lot of information. Miami and Megan, you hit on this with transferability versus degree applicability. Coursework's going to transfer. In the state of Ohio and the public institutions, it's a guarantee. That's the whole point of this program, is for courses to transfer. Now, there's something called degree applicability. Just because you took one class does not mean it's going to be applicable to the degree program that you enroll in at the college you plan to attend. That is your responsibility to ask those questions. And when you're scouting out your resources, when you're doing your college visits, your questions, you can utilize a resource called transferology.com, which I think Krisha put in the chat. And then also, you got to be your own self-advocate and do your due diligence. contact the college you're interested in, especially if you're looking to go to a college outside the state. Outside of the state for a public and state institution, I always say it's a confident transfer, that courses are going to transfer, but you need to find that out for yourself. That's really important. Lean on your academic advisors at your college for CCP. We can help you with that, especially if you plan to attend that set institution. Okay, I think that's my takeaways for UC, and then I'm going to pull up the questions that I have here. So what happens if a student fails their CCP course? This is my wheelhouse. I'm an academic advisor for CCP, so if you kind of can't already tell that, my wheelhouse. So if you fail a course at UC or any of the other colleges that you plan to take CCP from, that is going to be an F on your transcript at that institution and will impact the GPA. It will also impact you at your high school if it's an applicable course for your high school for dual enrollment, and the school district can and usually does recoup the cost of the class that you took for CCP. So this is why it is so important. Please be proactive versus reactive. It is so important. Keep the communication up. If you're not doing well in your classroom, reach out to your advisor, reach out to your school counselor, find solutions versus being reactive and being like, I'm in the hole, I don't know what to do. We can help you find solutions in the forefront versus afterwards. That's real important. Same goes for withdrawing. Pay attention to your deadlines at your colleges. There's a difference between dropping a course and withdrawing from a course. They have two separate deadlines. They are exit strategies of a course. One is without penalty. So a drop deadline usually occurs within a 2-week span of the semester. And then if you drop it, there's no penalty, no GPA impact, no financial penalty. If you go into withdrawal period, if you withdraw and exit a class during that time frame, there's no GPA impact traditionally. You will have a W on your transcript, and the school district does usually recoup the cost of the class. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind too. All right, if you did CCP this school year, do we need to reapply for next year? Okay, like I said, for me, the answer is no. Christine, Megan, is it different for you guys if you are a returning student?
All we need, as long as you've been admitted before, all we need is an updated transcript and college authorization form.
Perfect.
Jamie, do you need anything?
Hi, Beauty.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. We would like an updated transcript. And then again, you need to do your letter of intent with UC. If you have questions on where you land in that, definitely email us at ccp.edu. We'll be happy to do that for you. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
No, that's fine. At Miami, you must reapply every year. So we are different with that. The application's pretty simple, but you must do it every year, even if you attended.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, if I have a 7th grader who's taking the SAT in June, she would like to take a college course this summer. Is she old enough? You're right. You're technically going to be a 7th grader at that point because the CCP cycle is summer, fall, spring. Okay, so if you're going as a rising 7th grader, you are eligible. I would scout out your colleges of choice. And Krishna could probably talk a little bit more about this. Having been in this seat before, I can only do it from an outside point of view, and having done this for almost 6 years, please be targeted as to what school you would like to participate and do this in, if it's going to fit your logistical and your academic and your school schedule, because your middle school schedule is going to look very different than a high school schedule. And you want to make sure that enough time is allotted for that class. And I would start small. That would just be my advice. Start small and look at maybe, most likely it's probably going to be math that you're probably looking at. But start small and ask a lot of questions. That's a really good one. Megan, I think this is more for you. Also searching Miami and for me, UC course catalog, it's not straightforward. Will you be giving pointers on how to find and register for classes? Okay, so for UC, once you are admitted, if you're admitted, you go to orientation, go to advising, then you register. For UC, you do not register for fall classes until like the 3rd week of July. So it gives you time to kind of do some scouting, kind of seeing what's left and what's available. For summer, it's a little bit quicker. Registration and courses are going to need to be an individualized conversation with your academic advisor, because that's when we're going to delayer what is called level 1 or level 2 courses of the first 15 rule. So it's not really as straightforward to put that on a website for us. But if you're looking at like some of those coursework, gen ed courses, English 1, college algebra, or a history class, or something that you're wanting to do dual credit for your grad requirements, those are usually on the table, and we're happy to discuss those with you. Megan, any insight on that for you guys, or is that pretty parallel?
It is, yes. So I typed the course list website for you guys to review, and you will also be required to meet with an advisor at Miami, so they'll help you choose courses.
Perfect. And then I think my last question was, can I take fine art classes? Okay, so depends on level 1 versus level 2, and then also depends on what is available with UC. Most of our fine arts coursework is usually underneath the college, Conservatory College of Music, CCM umbrella, and CCM usually has a lock on their classes, basically saying you must be a CCM degree-seeking student to take those classes. So traditionally, I don't have a lot of those. I do have some for non-majors, but those are usually not going to be available, and they're also usually pass-fail or satisfactory, unsatisfactory grading scales, which is not CCP compliant. So these are great questions, but I always highly encourage fine arts, PE, gym, just take them at your high school. It's a lot easier. And you guys have a really good breadth of courses to choose from at the high school level. I think that wraps it up for my stuff. I know I kind of plowed through. I'm sorry, it took a lot of time.
Really good information. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking at the time, and I'm wondering if, Adrian, do you know, is this going to just shut off at 7:30?
No, it won't. And no, it won't. And Jamie, there was 2 questions, and I just said I will refer to you because they were very specific. If you'll just go back up in the chat, they were time stamped at like 7.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So if you don't
I'll take a look.
Yeah, there were 2 questions.
Okay, and I do want to put up, we have a slide with everybody's contact information on it, which we'll put up, and you can maybe like take a picture of it. But I mean, it seems like the chat's been going crazy, and I haven't been looking at it at all, but I also know some of the college partners have been posting in there. But actually, I think everything has been answered for the ones that I was going to answer, except for 2. Does financial accounting course happen in school as an academic bell, or is it an extra class? So at Sycamore, we have 2 classes that are CCP classes that happen during the day during a bell, taught by Mr. Powell, sponsored by Cincinnati State. So right now we have 2 CCP classes, and yes, they kind of look and feel like, second bell math class. How are CCP classes integrated into the student schedule with their other Sycamore High School classes? Are they taken instead of or in addition to SHS classes in their respective fields? So the main way that students' schedule is affected by their CCP classes is that they tend to have release from Sycamore High School to engage with their CCP classes. So when more students were going and attending classes at the universities, it would be like if you had a 2:30 class, you worked with your counselor, and we made sure all your SHS classes were before that. And then your schedule was the same every day at Sycamore High School, and you might go Tuesday and Thursday to UC Blue Ash. So that's usually how it happens. And I guess the answer to the question is usually CCP classes are like not in addition to SHS classes. They kind of round out your schedule. So there aren't a whole lot of students taking 7 bells plus CCP classes. So it's usually their schedule is a little bit less at Sycamore so that they have time to work on their CCP classes. The exception to that would be in the summer. So in the summer when there's no high school, those would be in addition. Okay. So I'm not sure how we stand with regard to looking at questions in the chat. are we caught up? And are there questions from the floor? And maybe I'll have Emily shoot up that contact slide.
Yeah, I think most of the questions have been answered. And we can always follow up with future emails too if needed. And I put that information in the chat as well.
There's that gray bar at the bottom. Is that okay? So here's contact information for everybody that's on this call, or on this meeting tonight. We do have a fair number of students at Sinclair, and so I think on our website we have the websites for Sinclair as well. I just didn't add it because we didn't have a Sinclair person here tonight. Are there questions from the floor while you guys have the experts here? Guys answered everybody's questions.
I will break in. I apologize, Uma and Carson. I cannot seem to find your question specifically that I was going to ask. Do you mind to repeat those in the bottom of the chat, and I will answer those directly? I apologize. Maybe my elder eyes are playing tricks on me right now.
No, that's okay. I can do that.
Thank you so much.
Now I have time to look at them. It went up and down so quick, so I'll see if there's any in the chat that I can answer. And just thank you so much. Thank you, college partners. Thank you, families, for engaging with this and learning more about CCP. About how many classes can we take in a semester through CCP? I would say if you're not taking, and we do have some students that aren't taking any classes at the high school that might be taking 3, maybe 4. I don't know, college partners, what is it typical for like students that are full-time CCP, would you say?
I would depend. If you're doing full-time, I always advise, even though especially usually it's my seniors and my juniors minimally, y'all got a lot going on. Fall semester of your senior year is bananas. So I would approach that conversation gingerly, because it'd be like, oh, I could take 5 college classes for a fall semester. Semester's 15 weeks long. Now we're in a different environment, so it could be managed, but I really want you to always consider your academic, your stress level, your time management, study availability. Are you working? Are you playing sports? What does that look like? Those kind of things. So I would say if you're doing it full time and not doing anything at Sycamore, I would say 3 to 4 classes max, in my opinion. It doesn't mean you have to do it, but that's what we would talk about in advising.
If I may, there is a question from Audrey. Would we have to log in for specific times for classes if we take summer classes? Well, for the colleges, it just depends on how that class is offered. If a lot of us are primarily doing online courses right now, it kind of just depends on the setup of that online course. United States specifically, we have what we call live web classes, which are online classes where you get into Canvas or Blackboard, and then you would be expected to video conference at specific times. So for a live web class, yes, you would need to be available at specific times to meet with your teacher and for your peers. But that's a Cincinnati State specific example. It just depends on the format and the design of the class that you're taking.
Yeah, I think that's kind of pretty much what the asynchronous synchronous things kind of related to that. With asynchronous, I generally notice that like it's mainly like a week, kind of. It's like in 1 week, the professor assigns us a bunch of work to do, and then you just do it at any point during the week. And then you contact the professor, you have questions, they have office hours, stuff like that. And then synchronous, you log in a specific time, there's lectures, they take attendance or polls or exit stuffs. And then Yeah, and then in general, I don't know, virtual right now, I guess testing has mainly just been like either there's a specific window for a test, like you have a couple days to do it, or you have to do it in specific like release like for an hour during one day, or you're in a live call taking a test. It's just really, as you said, the professor specific. There's not really two like general answers to what is asynchronous or synchronous. It's more like
Krishna, what do you think? So you've been full-time CCP, correct?
no,
Oh,
not full-time CCP. I just generally taken like classes throughout a long period of time, so I just kind of took a bunch of courses.
So what's like a typical semester? Like how many Sycamore, how many CCP?
So I generally took like mainly Sycamore and then like maybe 2 CCP max. Especially because I was taking so many AP classes at Sycamore already, it was kind of like, more college work and balancing, as Jamie was saying, like, balancing so many other things is really important. Like you don't want to overload on CCP classes and then like miss the drop date and then now you have a bunch of stuff to worry about, right? So planning ahead of time is very, very important. Like figuring out what you can do, and yeah, those drop deadlines are very important, I would say.
Yeah. Hey, who's well versed on the Ohio High School athletics conversion credit?
That question happens all the time. I will say colleges, we don't speak to that. We advise to the students to ask it back to the school districts because I know my colleagues and I both run into this. Every school district reads that definition very differently.
Oh.
Some school districts read it as you must be in 5 classes per semester to be eligible to play sports. That's bananas to me. So I would, I know you guys are way different.
There's a conversion, and I should have looked it up before I said
no, but it's really important.
I know, and I thought you guys might have it, but I think it might be 1 CCP class counts as like 2 high school classes, and you have to be taking 5 high school classes worth 0.5 credit or more, passing them each quarter to be eligible for sports in the following quarter. So you don't, at least I didn't realize people interpreted that differently, but
yeah,
don't take 5 classes. It's less than that.
Exactly. And it's worth noting, if you participate in CCP coursework over the summer, that is not a prorated attribute to your athletics at high school. So we ran into that too. So it is worth noting the coursework you do in the summertime is not applicable to that 5 class, allotment for your school athletics. So we're a jack of all trades, a master of none.
No, you guys are awesome. What great resources for us. Okay. Well, it seems like, Krishna, did you is asynchronous difficult for a more difficult topic, say physics? You want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's generally nice to have asynchronous sometimes just because like you're like, bound to a good schedule to, make sure that you're actually understanding the material. You can like interact with the professor directly. It's nice, but like asynchronous, it's so much more flexible. Like especially if you're taking a bunch of classes in high school already, you can just kind of like do it in the evening, do it during the weekends. It's fairly easy to incorporate into schedule, but you also have far more, responsibility with keep staying on track and everything. And yeah, personally for math, it was pretty easy to stay on track with asynchronous, but I know for sure with physics or, like Gen Chem, OChem, like if you do like more advanced stuff like that, it's going to be kind of challenging, especially for like Chem. I know some of the people, some of my friends who they have to go in person, do labs and stuff, so you can't really do that online. And even physics it's far better to ingest that material in person compared to only watching lectures and stuff.
If you're looking to med school, guys, please reconsider doing online chemistry, physics, and biologies with labs and doing it too early. I know, Krishna, we've had these conversations.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I know I'm like on repeat with you on that one. You're my exception. You're You're my big exception, but please have a conversation about that because if you're looking down in med school down the road, they're really looking for your hands-on, being in the lab, having that extreme experience if you're going to take those. So have the conversation, I would say, before signing up for Gen Chem 1, Gen Chem 2 in an online space. It doesn't mean it's negative because of the environment that we've been in this last year, but as we're moving forward and starting to open things up a little bit more, just lays out a better foundation for your success.
Special information you only get from coming to the CCP session tonight in insider stuff. Okay, thank you again, everybody. At the high school, if you have more questions, the website is a really good resource, or feel free to reach out to me or have your student reach out to their counselor, and we will help you get the questions answered. And yeah, everybody have a wonderful night. Thank you all for attending and participating.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.